Welcome, and thank you for joining me. In this video, I want to show you a couple different ways to turn the edges for applique. We'll learn the glue and fusible web method, the freezer paper and starch method, and then we'll learn some hand basting so that we can make perfect circles, and then I'll show you how to hand stitch it all down. I'm going to gather some materials and meet you at the demo table. Okay, so the first applique method we're going to learn is the glue turn method. So when it comes time to drawing or tracing your shape onto your fusible web, you're actually going to go ahead and trace or draw with the shiny side facing up, and that goes for freezer paper as well. With freezer paper I would use a Sharpie marker. With fusible I use the micron pen. The reason I do that is to avoid the confusion of the reversing of the drawing of the original applique shape. If you draw everything with whatever product is facing up, in this case this shiny side goes onto the wrong side of your fabric and that will face up, and then the cotton will face up, then you never have to worry about reversing the shape. In this case, since we are doing a symmetrical shape, which is a heart, I'm going to go ahead and just draw half of it. Okay, a little scratchy to draw on. I'm just going to go ahead and do half of it, and then I can just fold it in half and cut the shape out. No one says you can't have a wonky heart where it's not even. That's perfectly fine and it's adorable. But in this case, let's just say we want it completely symmetrical. Okay, so it's folded. Now, go ahead and cut it just on the inside of the line you drew. The micron won't transfer to the fabric. However, if you're using a really light colored fabric, you will see that line. And now that's placed pretty symmetrically. And we're just going to really lightly tap it with the craft iron just to get it stuck on there. We don't need to go nuts and burn the applique. That can get really crispy if you use too high of a temperature. I've got my craft iron on low. Okay, flip the shape over, just give it another little press. And that's good. Right, take your scissors. Now we are turning the edges, so we do have to have that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we want to keep it pretty scant. We've got a lot of fabric that we need to cram and fold into the back of this shape, so we don't want to leave too much. And then you can just to eliminate bulk, we're just going to clip that. And then we can clip right down to the fusible product. Since it's fused, the cotton isn't going to fray or go anywhere. And then down at the points too, I do kind of like to sort of angle it in just to eliminate as much bulk as we can. I'm just trying to eliminate all that extra fabric that we really just don't need. So we're going to get out the glue and turn our shape next. I'm going to start with one side of the heart. Okay, see, on just a little tiny bit of glue will go a long way. I'm using the fork end of the Applique tools to hold the piece in place. I'm going to use the flat, rounded edge in my right hand. Start at the deepest edge of that curve and take little presses, little folds really close to the applique edge, the fusible edge. That way all of the excess fabric is coming out towards this raw edge and not into the shape. Okay, and then just come down one side and then come down the other. See how close my tool is to that fusible edge? That's what you want. That's how you're going to get your real round curves. And don't be afraid to turn your shape to make it a little easier. Okay. And then just fold that edge right on down. It's really easy to accidentally fold part of this shape under, so just work really gently. And just make sure that you're folding the edges just along your fusible web. got a little flattened out. The glue's repositionable, so if you find a place where you've got some points or it's got a little flat, you can actually turn your cuticle stick or your Applique stick around and just flatten some of that. When you come to the point, you are going to have a place where it's going to stick out on the side. Don't cut that off. What you're going to want to do is to just fold it over. On very steep angles, you'll even get another fold over on this side. You would accordion fold that back over, and that is not a lot of fabric to sew into your applique. It's no big deal. All right, so there you go. There's your applique shape. Pretty tiny little shape, small, nice rounded corners, and it's ready to get stitched in. Okay, now I want to show you how to do the freezer paper starch turn applique. Okay, so if you have the book and you're working from the templates that I've provided, we're going to turn to page 98, and you'll see that all of the true to size templates are on here for the flower, for the tulip. So we're just going to draw. I'll get as close as you can. It's applique, so it doesn't like piecing. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and cut that out right on the line, right inside the line like we talked about, so that there's no Sharpie left on the freezer paper. Once you get your template cut out, go ahead and turn it around and label it, because a lot of these look very similar. Okay, so with the freezer paper shiny side facing down, you're going to go ahead and place it on your fabric. Make sure that there's a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Be really mindful of that. And just press it down real lightly with your craft iron. And then again, we're just going to cut. Rounded edges we don't need to clip. You saw that in the heart. All of that excess fabric is going to get gathered up into the shape. But on a curve that curves in, called the concave, I think of it as a cave, you do need to clip a little bit, otherwise the fabric won't spread enough to give you the shape that you need. So you're going to take your acrylic paintbrush, okay, just dip it in, maybe brush off the excess, and you can just go ahead and paint it all the way up the side. Okay. And then the hair marker is great because that's what you're going to fold up against. The freezer paper is great, but the hair marker even keeps it a little bit more stable so that you don't accidentally freeze that folder paper in. You see that? And that just folds up really nicely, really easily along that. You can kind of hear it sizzling a little bit. Okay, that's the easy side, and that makes such a beautiful curve. This is my favorite way to applique, by the way. Okay, we've got that deep, deep, deep curve right here too, so we're going to start there so that part doesn't get flattened out. And then again, really close to the freezer paper edge. These points, and again, you can see on the other side how that extra fabric comes along. Just turn it back over, accordion pleat it, which took care of that. This one we'll probably have to do twice. Let's see. When you fold it, you want to make sure that fold is coming inside of the shape line. And just press it down. There's enough starch on there. Okay, and then there's your shape. Take the freezer paper out. You can use, like I said, 4 to 8 times, just depending on how much starch is on it. Your points are good and sharp, and then when you go to stitch it, you can manipulate much easier the edges for turning because they're already turned. You've already established that wonderful fold line. Okay, so the last little bit of applique I want to show you is to make a perfect circle. Take the wrong side of your fabric, center the circle on where you want to go. Okay, I'm taking a Frixion pen. Take a needle and a thread. I'm using a 50 weight threads, probably Aurifil. I'm not 100% sure, but it's not essential. This is just our basting thread, okay? To do a quilter's knot, you've got your threaded needle and you've got the end. Pinch the very end of it in your needle, wrap it 2, 3, 4 times, pull it down so you've got that knot pinched in your fingers. Grab the end of your needle and then just gently pull it through, and then you have this perfect quilter's knot, okay? Your basting thread will be sort of halfway between your drawn line and your edge. I try to stay around 1/8 of an edge. Now that I'm at the beginning, I'm just going to go ahead and pop the thread up to the front so it's easier to pull. Place the shape right back into the center. Don't take it off the needle yet because we want to do a few more stitches once we pull it. But just gather the thread. Pull it, it will gather. And to really hold it well in place, I take the needle and I'm going to go just maybe 3 or 4 more bumps. I'm really kind of just repeating where it goes in. Doesn't really matter. We're going to cut this thread. Okay, but that just holds it a little better. Okay. At this point you can take the needle out. We're going to spray some starch on it. I love Mary Ellen's Best Press. It smells amazing. Just squirt it, oh, maybe twice. And again, any iron will do on this. Sometimes I'll do 4 to 8 shapes at a time and then put them all, excuse me, I think I got a little starch in my face there. That can happen. Anyway, I'll put them under my iron and just let the iron rest right on top of the shapes. But since we're just doing one, I've got my little craft iron all heated up and ready to go. Good. Now we need to obviously remove the template. So find where your thread is, and to the right of it, open up that shape just a little bit, just so you can slide that template right out of there. Okay, that way you can pull slightly on your thread end and get that to be a perfect circle again. To hold the pieces in place, I will either pin them with a very tiny applique pin, or I'll use either Roxanne's Glue Based It or this Applique glue product. Let's say we'll place this one. Let's just pretend that we care about the edges, and this is an actual quilt section or piece. We have to be mindful of all the edges, so we're going to just go ahead and pin this in place, making sure we have that 1/4 of an inch. And maybe, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 spots into the seam allowance. I go right underneath, right on the inside, and I'll just come up right out of the edge of the shape. Make sure when you go back down into your fabric, you are directly across. You're not up here, back here. You're right underneath and almost a thread under the applique. Come out about 1/8 of an inch, and you see I am in one thread of that applique. Remember to match your thread to the applique, not to the background. Okay. About 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so I'm all the way around the circle. Just wanted to show you the back, and I wanted to show you how to end it. I just slide a little piece right next to where the thread is coming out, and it really is very similar to the beginning of the quilter's knot. Okay, one, I think I got that, 2, 3, 4. Hold the knot close to your fabric, then take the needle and just snug it up. Clip it. Again, I'm straight down. This might even be easier to see since it's solid. I'm 1/8 of an inch away. Even closer. No more than 1/8 of an inch on this. When I do my bindings on the back with this applique stitch, I am 1/4. I go every 4th. That's sufficient to hold that down. Same with sewing up the back sections after I've joined a quilted section to my main piece. I applique stitch, but it's 1/4 of an inch away from the previous stitch, so it goes a little faster. Now that I'm up to the back fabric, the excess seam allowance, what I want to do is I want to sort of just get that out of the way to stitch this first side of the point. Just kind of let it fall flat against the fabric on the other side, okay? Then I'm free without all that extra stuff to continue the applique right down to the point. I go a little closer than 1/8 of an inch here just because I'm going to pack the seam allowance up to the wall of this on the other side, so I just want to make sure that's not going to peek through. Okay, so maybe one more. Get the point. It's pretty much the point. As soon as I reach that tip, I'm going to turn it in the other direction. I'm going to go right at the point again just to reinforce what I've done and come out that tip. Okay, see that? Oh, let me come over here. See that? Now I can go ahead and accordion pleat that back down, tuck it in, use my needle to really get it under there, and then continue along. Again, we don't need to stitch this piece of applique where it's under the circle, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go underneath it. And then just come right up the other side. And now I've started the heart and I'm working my way down into the center. Go right into the V. And then just to sharpen that V, I'll kind of go in just to the fabric, pull it down, come up right in the V, and then go down again into that V, and then just continue along. This point is a little easier since it's closer to a 90-degree angle. You won't have to deal with what we did here and up here. And then come back around to where you started up at the top, and you're done. So after trying many different applique techniques, these are my go-tos. I like the glue turned applique for on the go and just simple shapes, and then I'll turn to the freezer paper method if I have some more intricate shapes that I want to turn, or if I have many layers of applique that are stacked up to make one shape. In the book, I also go through fused applique, where I teach you how to make shapes based on your own drawing, and that's really fun. And then I'll show you in the book how to machine applique that down as well. Give these a try and hone your technique. Like anything else, you'll get better the more you practice. Until next time, stitch on and always quilt as inspired.